1090 AM, WILD, a Radio 1 station, is doing their part to measure the movement. Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network proudly presents Measuring the Movement, a TV1 special presentation hosted and moderated by Tom Joyner from the Tom Joyner Morning Show and Roland Martin from TV1's Washington Watch, live from New York. And now, time to measure the movement, courtesy of TV1.
And a reminder, 1090 AM WILD here in Boston is the only African-American radio station that is representative of what the Reverend Al Sharpton, Tom Joyner, and Roland Martin and others are putting together to measure the movement, hosted and moderated by Tom Joyner and Roland Martin.
Welcome back to the National Action Network Forum of the First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem. Before we get to the soundbite I want to play here, Reverend Sharpton, the commitment from the National Action Network over the next 12 months.
Three things. We are going in those 6 states, as I said, on the ground, increased by 5% the turnout. Second, as we do that, we're going to lay out an agenda, as Danny talked about, to those that are running. We need to demand of them, as Warren Ballentine talks about black banks, they put money in our banks out of municipal government. We need to demand what they're going to do in education. So there must be an attachment of what we want with that, as Danny said. The third thing is, I think that we ought to have our own mobilization in the communities. I don't know if we're going to call it Cocoa Party. August 28th, the anniversary of the March on Washington, we need to all over the country come out and keep the dream alive, dream keepers on August 28th, and build up toward a mobilization on financial reform in October that we're going to work with the NAACP and Urban League on. We need to go in the streets. The Tea Party people learn how to hit the streets from us. We need to go in the streets, we need to register, and we commit to those numbers. My last point is that we need to not quit talk about young leadership. I've done it. The executive director of our organization, I'm going to shut up and let her talk. She's not even 30 years old, Tamika Malley. Now y'all, let's not keep this talk.
Absolutely. We're going to go to Tamika when it comes to economics, but I want to play this soundbite from my recent interview with Winnie Mandela that gives us a proper transition from the previous discussion on politics to economics. Here's what Winnie Mandela had to say recently.
People do not understand that we did gain political freedom, but without economic freedom, that road to freedom is still not yet achievable.
Pure and simple. Joining us right now, folks, in terms of our other panel, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Assistant Professor of Finance, Syracuse University. Hermine Hartman, she's President and CEO of Hartman Publishing Group. Harold Lewis is a multiple McDonald's franchisee. Dr. Deborah Toney, President of the Black Nurses Association. Warren Ballentine is host of the Warren Ballentine Show on Syndication 1. And Georgetown University professor and author, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Boyce, recently I talked to Elizabeth Warren. She's, of course, over the Congressional Oversight Panel. And she says with the home foreclosure program, 50% of black wealth could be wiped out as a result of the home foreclosure program. Now, I understand the letter that Michael read from the president, but let's be honest. The home foreclosure program the president has put forth has been a failure, has been an absolute failure. So when it comes to economics, we have to, what do we need to do when it comes to the home foreclosure issue to deal with black wealth not being wiped out to affect the next 2 generations?
Well, excuse me for being frank by saying this, but when I spoke to someone from the White House recently, I told them that I think that President Obama's economic advisors, Tim Geithner and Lawrence Summers, should be removed immediately. The reality is that no matter how much academic training you have in an area, if your heart and your conscience is not in the right place, then you don't have the ability to solve those problems. So when I look at Obama's economic advisors, and again I separate this from the president as a person, the reality is that our issues are not put on the table when it comes to economic concerns. You look at unemployment. I said, I want. It's great. You're telling me you're putting money into this, money into that, money into the other thing. But when you look at the data, the proof is in the potato salad. You look at the data. White unemployment has stabilized. Black unemployment has gone up. We need a better solution.
Congressman Clyburn, earlier you talked about a jobs bill. The president said, in terms of he has to have an economic plan that addresses all. But if you're talking about education, and if certain kids can't read, you have a targeted program when it comes to reading. If you have HIV/AIDS problem, you can say here's the overall budget, but we're going to target the people who are most in need, today black heterosexual women. And so why can there not be an overall economics plan, but one that is specific to African Americans with the highest unemployment rate, as Boyce talked about?
Well, let me tell you what we did. We did do that, and we call it our 10, 20, 30 program. If you look at the recovery package, you will see that it's targeted every community where 30% of the last 30 years, 20% or more of the people were beneath the poverty level, 10% of the money, as well as the tax credits, must be targeted toward those communities. That's in the bill. And as I go around the country, it's amazing to me how many people are not aware that we did, in fact, target this money, and they have not accessed it the way we've intended for them to do it.
And also, obviously, Mark, and I need about 20-second response here, Mark, with the stimulus funds Ogletree mentioned earlier, the reality is 1% of dollars spent thus far have gone to black firms.
What should, and we recommended this, send the money to the mayors, not to the governors. Send the money.
And one second. When you say we recommended this, you mean in the meeting that you were with the president?
In other words, the idea is that one of the fundamental issues with the stimulus is that money went to state governments. And we think if you're going to target, if you're going to get money into neighborhoods and local communities, they ought to either go to city governments or to community-based organizations together. And I think, here's the point. The stimulus is what the stimulus is. We need a jobs bill that follows a different model than the stimulus. And that's what we've urged. That's what the Urban League 6-point plan is. Governors have held up money going to state. I'm not talking about New York specifically. I'm talking about across the nation. New York may be a different situation, but in most communities, it's the state governments, it's the governors that are not sensitive to the needs of local communities and urban unemployment.
I need to go with a web comment from Tom Joyner before we go to the next break, and then we'll take more of your comments when we come back on the issue of economics. Tom?
Here's what people are saying, all right? Do you believe the high rate of foreclosures and school closings in the black community are plots to get poor black and Hispanics to move out so that wealthy white people can buy up the property and price it out of reach for us?
Okay.
How can we keep that from happening? That's from Tasha from Little Rock.
Okay. Again, folks, first of all, Tom, thanks for the comment. When we come back, again, we're going to have more from our panel on the issue of economics. But again, what we're looking for are specifics that folks to say we need to do over the next 12 months when it comes to getting or increasing economic power. So whether it's political, whether it's policy, whether it's individual, we'll deal with that when we come back to First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem.
Stay tuned for more of Measuring the Movement, and stay with News Talk 1090 AM WILD Boston, where information is power.